Good evening, one. Good evening, all. Welcome to Worlds and Crafts. My name is Bran, and I'm your host. Worlds and Crafts is a stream that is devoted to opening the curtain of creation on setting building, where we talk about meta plots, mechanics, and lots of minutiae. Oh man, how has everyone been past week since last Thursday? If you came to our map making stream. Let's see who's in chat. Oh, looks like we're a little spare this week, but that's okay. We got Avak and Zedrebin. Zedrebin, sorry. There we go. But I expect it'll pick up in a little bit, because, you know, some things take time. Goodness me. So, last week on Worlds and Crafts, we spent some time working out some more of the high-level details of the setting we've been working on, which really doesn't have a name. But it seems like the lighted forest and the rediscovering your magic seems like a good one for now. So I thought that we spent enough time at the high level, and that it was time to go a little bit lower level, a little bit more focused, to take a look at what the next steps would be, even if we don't do this to every part right away. Even if we go back to high level, I thought it would be fun to switch focus and bring it in a little bit more, where we focus in on Gator City. We're gonna focus in on that city of the old spirit, on top of a massive alligator striding across the lands. Because that was just a very fun concept. I can't stop thinking about it. I even started doing some shitty concept art that I'll be sure to post at some point soon. Let's see here. I'm gonna just poke everyone on Twitter. Reasons. I tried my very best this week to get my noise to transmit properly through stream, and it just didn't work. I don't know why. But at the moment, I'm currently listening to mynoise.net, and I'm listening to their Distant Thunder, which is thunder and rain, and it's a beautiful, beautiful backdrop to anything you're making. I highly recommend going there and giving some support. And there we have Carrying Comfort Studios, Brother Wes. How are you, my friend? To lower this, I feel like you're staring at the top of my head. That's a little better. Now I can relax. The only problem with having a mic set up right here, like, I don't know, like 3 fingers breadths from my mouth, is, makes it really difficult to drink wine. Or anything for that matter. Water? You know, vital things. Hydrate. Well, I mean, anything that's staring at the top of my head is probably a predator, so no, I'm not. Anything that only stares at the top of your head, looking down at you, watching your movements, your body language, watching every step and jitter and misstep. Gator City. Fair assessment. But yeah, this week I really want to talk about Gator City. I want to talk about that city of the old spirit. Because zooming in on that seems like probably the most fun, and that allow us to just be real relaxed about it. But before we get into that, I'm just taking a moment here to kind of bring myself down into it. Worlds and Crafts is kind of a nice rhythm to the week, you know? It adds something that can kind of be accomplished, checked off, you know, on weeks that feel like you can't check anything off. Kind of like this week. Oh, look who's here. Rosie Racket has subscribed for 7 months. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, listen, I'm the squeaky clean bean machine. I mean, you know, as clean as I can get. So, how is everyone tonight? How's everyone's week going? Because mine is one of those weeks that feels a whole lot like it's been good, but that I have nothing to show myself that it's been good. So the conspiracy theorist inside my brain is like, if you look at all of these unconnected ideas and imagine they're connected, then guess what? Like, nothing. Literally nothing. Stop, please. Thanks, anxiety. Appreciate you. Hey, listen. That double click is a lot harder than people give you credit for, you know? Oh, good. You're here for Gator City. Excellent, because that's what we're gonna do. Gator City is the reason you have all arrived, and you know it. So for anyone who's oh, Wes. Ah, that's a mood, buddy. That's a mood. But if for anyone who missed our last several sessions of Worlds and Crafts, we designed a city from a pretty far away perspective at current, because we're doing some, you know, big nebulous high lore concept or high concept stuff. And one of the things that was mentioned when I said, well, why can't we have like a creature, you know, a giant creature with a city on its back? And I just kind of let everyone kind of throw out words, because I mean that's what we do here, right? One that was said was gator, an alligator, and I could not shake the idea from my head. I really wanted Gator City, and so here we are with Gator City. So I did a little bit of writing, not much, just kind of to prep us for this, where we narrow down or change our lens, look a little closer at this city. So nestled between the spiny parapet-like ridges of a massive alligator, there lies, or the back of a massive alligator, there lies a city that is a place of strange nomadic life, in which the people live on the whims and desires of almost alien life. Concept. The people of the city lead their lives in the wake of the unthinkably vast and ancient creature upon which they reside. This affects everything in their lives, from where they get their resources to their preferences of food to their routines. By season, the great worm settles down in different areas of the region, during which time the people's lifestyles shift accordingly. And Pariah Jones, with relation to that, I'm really that's very heartening to me, because your Kickstarter was such a massive success, um, that it's kind of like, you know, good to know that we all struggle with the same things, right? Actually, Brian Lieberge said something earlier that really was very helpful to me, because I struggle a lot with imposter syndrome, and that was basically, if you feel like an imposter, you're doing it right, because it means you know you have room to improve, and while you're worried that maybe that means you're bad, you know you're going to improve as well, because you see people who you admire. And I was just like, that's I need to like put that on my wall, that if you have imposter syndrome, you're basically in the right place. Not to say all people in the right places have imposter syndrome, but hey. Yes, yes, yes. So, back to Gator City. I see Broken Golem already had an idea. Not assuming that there are structures, but neighborhoods divided by natural splits and furrows in the Gator's movement/gate, connected by rope bridges or pontoons. I think I'm gonna try and keep the hashtag that I just threw out earlier, which is Giga Gator City. Giga Gator City. It's the Giga Gator. Try saying that 7 times fast. Oh, Rosie. That's enemy in my head now. I want you, please take me home. And I like that idea, you know, about there being like rope bridges connecting these various neighborhoods and such. No, your work's not done. It's very easy to get a song stuck in my head. If you've been here often, you know how often I sing. So your work is almost done. All right. So let's get back into the setting-wide themes we'd established in previous sessions of Worlds and Crafts. So session-wide, that we're angling for the ability to rekindle magic in yourself and to find magic again in a place where magic is fading. So life that is unaffected by civilization. It contains a kind of magic that becomes lost through the effects of that civilization. It's an untamable force that dies when it's tamed. The inventive spark of humankind also contains magic, and that becomes lost through struggle and through pain. It is a force of creation and endeavor that dies when it becomes snuffed out, when it becomes trapped. Massive magical constructs stride the land between cities, carrying people and cargo. None are exactly alike, if similar, for they are living creatures created through suffusing physical matter with spiritual matter. Adventure is a call that everyone feels, for out there in the world there are lost memories, miracles, and wisdom to be found. You can always rekindle your magic. You can always heal the wounds. And now to catch up on chat. Floating houseboats more to the side, so it's like Aberdeen Bay and... No, I'm just imagining... Yeah, Evil Goose City, exactly your big dad. No Chaotic Goose City. It is a lovely day on the back of the giant gator, and you are a horrible goose. So, a couple of local themes and feelings I had just kind of come up with to get started that were already kind of detailed out in the high level concepts. Is that for the people who live here in this massive city on this alligator, or maybe a small city on this massive alligator, irrelevant, that the rhythm of their lives is driven by this great spirit upon which they reside. And that was, I used the term great spirit because we had kind of poked at that idea that maybe this entity is some kind of spirit. Like, I mean, like Princess Mononoke style, like old spirits. Like the spirits are physically manifest. But because of the themes of the game, I thought that the challenge here would be, or could be, that the Great Spirit is spending more and more time stationary, disrupting the lives of its citizens, implying that it's either tired or, you know, entering torpor. No, something's changing, you know, something's going on. And here's, in this local scene, the evidence of that change. And something that I really want to do with this whole setting, because I'm really tired of, like, people versus people arguments and culture versus culture. Like, yeah, I mean, I get that there is, it's tough to do that. Like, it's tough sometimes to cross cultural bridges, but I think we've done that enough now that we can stop reanimating it. So I don't really want to deal with that, but I do want to deal with, you know, these concepts like environmental struggle. And, you know, so this great spirit kind of like settling down for longer. in effect, for these people, the seasons are changing. I think we all know what that's like. And, so it's a big point of contention, causes a lot of problems, even if minor ones right now. So, maybe showcasing the ways in which that occurs when who is the first to become, hurt by these changes. And even if it's only minor, maybe it's a discomfort right now. Maybe we don't get into the big dark realities, but touch upon them in a nice, gentle, respectful way that still gives that sense of tension and drama that would drive adventure, would drive curiosity, would drive a desire to fix it, especially with this theme of you can always rekindle your magic, you can always heal the wounds. So, how? I don't want this to be a grim, dark setting. I want it to be a setting that is dark, but has hope. Because I'm that nerd. Come here for your positive vibes, kids. I'm gonna give you a hug. Okay, I think I've rambled enough. So, local themes and feelings. I do like the idea of the city is many figurative islands connected by it's connected by maybe like cable trolleys, kind of cable trolleys, or hikes over ever moving terrain scales. The highest of fantasy. Hope. Ha 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 ha. So the gator settling in a lake or river or swamp and then slowly sinking or drifting. Oh god, it's always sinking. That's nightmare fuel. I'm pretty sure Hmm. That's a good question, actually. I think, we don't have to answer it right away, but, where are the places, okay, local themes, feelings, and concepts. We're just gonna merge this all together, because I don't feel like separating it right now. So the city is figurative islands connected by cable trolleys or hikes over ever-moving terrain scales. I think that sounds amazing. Centipede City? Are you kidding me? That's great. That's wonderful. The people who live there have built their houses on like on like moving spindles. So as it climbs walls and stuff, all the land shifts. Everyone there is basically a monkey because they have to climb constantly. I mean, it's not like a centipede that large would really care much for any life smaller than it. It would just be like, you are a gnat, I don't care. Centipedes only freak me out because they're so poisonous. Like the ones in, what is it, Japan? That are nightmare fuel, just like every bug in Japan. So, where does this gator stop? Each season, so to speak, where does it go? Does it travel far? I mean, I would assume it wouldn't be outside of temperate zones. It is a gator, but it is also impossible. It's so big that it's impossible. So maybe it goes through like cold areas too. But that's a question I think that needs answering: is what is the circuit like for this big lizard? I think that's a good question as well. And I think what would be interesting is if it's the only known one of its size. Kind of a relic of a far off time. Carrying Comfort Studios. I'm not sure if that's a relevant question. I only say that because it's so large. It's so large that I'm not sure ambient temperature could affect its innermost self terribly well. I think that it probably couldn't be ectothermic. I think it would have to be endothermic if you're talking about biology. But it's also, millions of tons of biomass. It's not possible. So it can be literally anything. It could be super hot, super cold. Maybe that's the weird thing about it. Maybe it is always really cold and it doesn't seem affected by temperature. At least, or maybe nothing more than its scales. Could be like the Earth, a consistent 55 degrees. Or maybe it's just always warm. Like, maybe it's a consistent, 102, like dogs. And it's just toasty all the time. So as it goes up for, cold areas, people, shut the fucking upper windows in their house and just let the heat radiate. I don't know. I mean, there's, these are good questions. And so I think we can just come up with some potential answers. Like, let's say for a second that this massive creature is cold-blooded. What does that mean for us? What does that mean for these people? If you want to. I mean, I shouldn't say is it cold-blooded. What would happen if ... the gator was cold-blooded? Supernaturally cold. Warm-blooded. Supernaturally warm. Out of these, what serves our themes the most? Interesting. We don't have to truly answer these questions. I just think what I'm trying to do right now is, you're right, Big Dad. We won't answer too much about it, but what would happen if it was cold-blooded, supernaturally cold, warm-blooded, supernaturally warm? How would this affect the people? So we don't have to really look into that terribly much. Hey there, Kayla. How you doing? Hi, Bran. We are currently working on Gator City. There's a city on top of a giant alligator. Gator City! And I'm currently drinking wine and water. So, I still kind of want to think about where this Gator City would go. Of course, you didn't hydrate right away. Well, right, Broken Golem. What we're kind of asking is, what is the nature? What is the nature of Big Gator? Like, what is it, we don't have to answer all the questions. Oh, the wine kind of hydrate. I like that. Ooh, idea. Big idea. What if there are points in the world that are... I mean, we already kind of talked about this a little bit in last stream. There are points in the world that are sacred. There are points in the world where there are temples and all kinds of things. What if this gator's food... What if it needs to settle down in these areas of mystical confluence in order to kind of like recharge its batteries? Hey! And I mean, I didn't want to use the word ley lines, but yeah. Spells down different confluences of mystical energy. Ley lines, fonts, etc. Boom. Alright, well, we've kind of said, you know, that a big gator? No. No, son of a biscuit. You ever do that? I accidentally do that all the time. Giga gator. Triangle-esque? Maybe put a dash in there next time. Yeah, keep going. What do you mean? Oh. Okay, so hear me out. If it does this thing, then maybe it makes rounds to sacred spaces of the world, but then during, I don't know, one season in particular, it travels out into the ocean and settles at a point with no obvious markers or islands or anything. I don't really want to go with the storm because that makes the city like more threatening than it needs to be, but I like the ideas. But let's see. Oh my god, the people go through the mist become small. There's just a huge cloud around this tiny gator. Like, beep. Everyone is microscopic. Aha. I like the idea of a massive gator striding around. Like, you know, I don't know. Somebody who has never seen the gator striding in the distance or whatever goes to a new city, and off in the distance they're like, oh, those are really cool mountains, what are those? And they're like, oh, that's the great worm. They're like, what do you mean? And then they move and you're like, oh god. Mini mist. It's like the Cine Mini monster from Chowder. Oh, sorry, I might get us banned. No. Copyright infringement. Cease and desist. Yeah, so I was thinking that the reason why, you know, it goes out there for the same reason as always, but yeah. So it is not getting enough energy from the, or excuse me, it's not getting energy as quickly as it once did from these places. It settles, and so it stays longer. Alright, so maybe the only one that's unaffected is the one on the ocean. So everything in their lives, their regularity, if they do, like, I'm sure they do deep sea fishing while they're out there, right? So people are doing all kinds of deep sea fishing. That's, you know, that's a good question to ask. So, the city travels with the gator to ... a point in the middle of the ocean, of the South Ocean. Because why not? Right, exactly. I want to tie everything back into that whole, like, the problem is that magic is disappearing. The problem is that mystical things are going away, and they're kind of retreating from the world because of that. But that you can do something about it. Kind of. Yeah. So maybe another point it goes to is, settles down and maybe in the lighted forest. In the lighted forest. Mostly because it's already a space where spirits of plenty seem to go to. Let me grab... Oh, didn't want to do that. That's an excellent question. We haven't really asked that yet. I mean, if it has a city on it, then the largest portion of its back must be many miles. At least many square miles. And the largest portion of its back being between those ridges. So it's huge. So Matilda is what Puppy Lover has named our a mouse that we found today. We found a baby mouse in Danny's studio, and last I checked, they were doing fine. But I mean, I'm not holding out hope for them because who knows what's going on? They are a mouse. It could be any number of things. You know, they just kind of tottered out weakly into the studio, but they seem cognizant and okay, just a little bit wobbly. So we're giving them a place to recoup, and then we're gonna probably let them go once they feel better. Crossing my fingers, just because I feel empathetic toward all small things, all things really, actually, even large things. But still not holding out hope for it. I used to work on a ranch. I have those defense mechanisms built in. I mean, Danny said she does kind of want to hold on to the Babby for a while, because she'd like to use them as a reference for some new art. And I was like, yes, let's do it. If we do that, we're gonna definitely get them a more appropriate home than a box. But for the moment, they are just weak and recovering. All right, so I'm just pulling back up our setting building stream doc from our Wolves and Crafts doc from last week, because there was something in here that I wanted to look again. That's right. There's the zones. A slowly moving magical death, basically. I'm looking at the chat now. The energy is slowing flow. The gator goes where there's a pool that's collected natural reservoirs and absorbs that, but reservoirs aren't filling as fast anymore, so timing is off. Also, the possibility of getting to one and finding someone tapping into it. A city has grown there in the previous decade. Kutesi cities. That's an excellent idea. Hold on to that. Getting lost in thought here. Talking about that mouse. We were just talking about places that the gator goes. Let's see. The gods are inside of objects in the world because that's fun. There are dragons of entropy, grief, consciousness, and creation. And the roads are incredibly dangerous. I lost my thought train. It fell off a cliff into the mists. The mists of forgetfulness. Okay. I'm gonna skip this, or kind of skip that question for now, because I'm having difficulty imagining it. So for the city itself, I'm imagining that there are particularly large scales upon which buildings can be stably built. Maybe like stony old things that are like hills. I have a pretty strong mental image there. So, um, clay and stone wood hauled up from various locales are the preferred building materials for these particular domiciles and buildings. And structures, rather. But as the city has grown, as the city has grown and these stable zones are more scarce, creative building habits such as those who might figure out how to build a home that shifts in the movement of the great worm, or those who built on top of... Ah, hello there, Maritama. How are you today? Gator City, Gator City. But yeah, so as the city has grown, these stable zones more scarce. Creative building habits such as those who are such as son of a biscuit. Maybe stilt houses. Lashing beams instead of pinning them. And practices more often seen in boats than in homes have been implemented. Rope bridges and various fasteners help to keep everything safe and secure. So I was thinking initially, Broken Golem, that the spines, and this is for everyone, that the spines on the Gator, oh my god, Giga Gator City Gang! Tents and hammocks and yurts, that's a great idea. Tents and hammocks. I'm gonna say tents yurts slash gear. I think it's gears. I don't remember how to spell it. And hammocks. Yeah, I know. And that's one thing I'm loving about it is it's just fun that it's this like massive creature that's unfathomably large and probably only travels certain pathways as a result. You know, I think it would probably go to the Lighted Forest, and I think it would also... I mean, Maritama, can you feel the skin mites on your skin drinking the the fluid from your cells? Yeah. Oh, it's that time of year. Here comes the gators. I mean, yeah, everyone has skin mites all over them, and they're completely harmless to us because ultimately the outer, like, what, like 2-3 layers of our epidermis is completely, is only concerned with scratching. I mean, we're technically doing damage to our own skin when we're scratching. right? Because all that outer layer is completely dry. Not completely dry, but mostly dry, save for, some strategic oils to protect the little tiny pockets of moisture. And there are mites who drink that water because they're gross, okay? Gross mites. And we can't really do anything about that, like literally nothing. It's crazy how resilient these mites are. But, and that's what I'm saying is, no, and that's fair. Like, I wasn't initially thinking the gator was that large, but as I've thought about it more and more, in my mind, I'm not imagining an alligator. I'm imagining a city that is built on scales, and like on this like moving surface, and like dirt has fallen in many of these places, and so then these like hills rise and fall, and you're like, this is bizarre. So the question then, of course, is how high up are they? If the gator's this large, they must be like living in a mountain. Yes, skin mites do serve a symbiotic purpose. They help to take care of the very dead skin cells that need to go away. Yeah, I mean, oh my god. Does that mean that they like does that mean that these people like accidentally exfoliate the gator scales when they when they're like farming? Ooh, I just had a thought. There are areas on the gator that flood. What if it brings sediment? What if there's literally clay deposits on this gator's back? And by like dredging up the clay, they ultimately help the gator. One thing I like about this concept as well is it borders on gross, but it's also cool. Huh, that's the thing I didn't think about. Possible that there are entire like pools that gather on like different areas of the gator. I'm now imagining that there's like a community of people who live in houseboats on the tail, and when it enters the water, they float and get dragged along. It's happening. Those who live on the tail of the gator live in houseboats that settle back down onto, or excuse me, houseboats that get dragged along behind the gator in certain seasons. Most of these people are fisher folk and boatwrights. I like that. The question has definitely been answered, or not answered, asked Maritima, because I think it was Kayla, Puppy Lover, who asked the question initially, and suggested that there's a mist that surrounds the gator that makes everyone who goes there small. But I really like the idea of there being this gargantuan thing walking slowly in the distance. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, okay, so the whole minigator thing, I really like it. I think it sounds fun. It feels like a Doctor Who episode. Um, and I would watch the hell out of that. Like, less. I mean, doesn't that sound like a Doctor Who episode? Come on. The TARDIS lands on the back of an alligator. God damn it. I should just write that as a script and send it to BBC and be like, air this. Yeah. It's a tired old thing, so it has to stop for rests. There is there's a lovely place, a lovely space. There's a mountain pass that is kind of larger that I think it would probably go through. So I'll say that it stops in the savannah. The North Plains as well. Probably goes around the mountains. See here. What is the nature of Gator? Unique resources. Its passage dredges up stone or smashes or dredges up all kinds of things and takes down whole swaths. Forest. Well, mercy. Takes down. I don't know. Either way, the passage dredges up all kinds of things that attract followers and scavengers and traders. Thank you very much for being the numbers nerd, Broken Golem, because that's usually what I do when I'm not writing, and running a stream. But yeah, 1,610 meters to a mile. Apparently, the largest version of Godzilla was 108 meters tall. So Giga Gator could be 10 times the size of Godzilla. That's fun. I think that's very fun. Mostly because, and I like the idea that the gator is like respectful. Like you see it rolling up, and they're like, "Oh no, what do we do?" And then it just settles down in the distance, and you realize there's buildings on its back. There's literally nothing we can do. I imagine there are probably people who worship it. People who don't live on its back, who just worship it in its passage. I mean, it's huge. It's basically God to them. There's a sacred aspect to its passage, and there are cells of gator worshippers all over the world, or all over I'll say the world. Why not? Right, yeah. And the people live on its back are considered either holy, chosen, or pilgrims. Oh no. Something else I think would be fun is maybe this gator is in fact another dragon, but just has like almost no ego and just does its thing. The El Deuterino of dragons. Hello there, Patrick Grimkin Lord. How are you this evening? On this eventide. Oh, your big dad. I like that idea. Okay, let's think about that. What if the dragon slash gator, whatever it is still recovering, resting from something that it did near the dawn of time? Ah, yeah, I'm really sorry about that, Patrick. How is your eye? Feeling better at least, I hope? No, you're Big Dad. I think that's brilliant. Did we just make Gator God? Take me down to the Gator God City. Praise be. Hello there, Sobek. How are you? Yeah. Isn't Sobek yeah, Sobek was the capricious nature of the Nile made manifest. Both life-giving and life-taking. And Ra's just sitting up there like, hey, I'm spicy. What's up, guys? I might make your plant. I might help your plants grow, but I might also just burn you all. I don't know if I like the idea of Gator having created everything, but I do like the idea of the creator. Jesus. The creator! Praise the creator! Oh, man. Okay, jeez, Crow. Gigagator to creator. So, the followers of the Creator Gang. Ala Creator, yeah, I like it. Okay, so the Gator is taking energy from the ley lines to recuperate its strength. Its perception of time and space is so vast that the people who live on its back are like mites on our skin. It undertook a great work shaping the Earth. Shaping the Earth itself, just the physical Earth. I think that'd be interesting. This Gator is a cosmic entity that arrived here and was like, I see this thing, and maybe they didn't create it, but they shaped it. They just spent a whole lot of time. It's the equivalent of you spending 8 hours molding clay with your bare hands and being exhausted and going, God, I need a nap and a snack. Except, you know, a nap and a snack for them is billions of years. That's not a bad idea, Broken Golem. I like that. It travels up the river, the one that the city of the Savannah lies on, but makes a berth around it. Or maybe steps right over it. Maybe it's that big. Yeah, that's possible. Alternately, I mean, if it settles down for months at a time, entirely plausible that some people realize that they could, like, climb it and get, like, clay and stuff. I mean, like, if you live in the middle of the plains, clay could be pretty useful to you if you don't have easy access to a river. It's like, oh look, this thing settled down nearby. What is this stuff? Oh my god, it dries into a hard substance, but underneath it is still damp. Oh, I can make bricks. Yeah, your big dad, I think, was suggesting that maybe they thought it was an island. You know, maybe they were boating and they're like, this island, and it was an island. And then, you know, didn't realize it was moving, and then got stranded there and had to eke out a living, and then they realized it was a giant gator. An island, we're saved! There's a cult of people who try to get the Gator's attention. None have ever succeeded, none have ever succeeded on record, but there are many stories about people getting wisdom or favors. So does that mean that the city on its back is filled with basically sailors' tales, but instead of sailors, it's those who have trekked the length of the Gator and tried to make sense of everything. I imagine there are scholars who live here and try to figure out what exactly the Gator is, because it defies all physical laws they are aware of. Let's see, the people who first went on being like, well, that might as well just happen. Adult Leaf? Do you mean like Leif Erikson? Are you making a reference? Is that a reference to Leif Erikson? I'm confused. I'm sorry. I'm not very bright sometimes. Okay, I'm not very clever sometimes. Oh, okay. Oh, Adult Life. Life. See? Not very clever. Adult Life is already so goddamn weird. Ah, okay. I haven't really watched any John Mulaney, so, there's that. Okay. It is about 7:04. We have an hour remaining, but it is, in fact, bio break time. Everyone, let's get some water, go to the bathroom, get a snack, come back with some fresh ideas, and we will see you in just a couple minutes. But in the meantime, let's always take up the reminder that, folks, Black Lives Matter. They have not stopped mattering. They still matter. There are still protests going on. We're back. God, time flies by so fast. Sorry about the little bit of delay there. 7 minutes. It's a over large break, but it's all right. Peppers? Why would I be eating peppers? Ah, you've reminded me that I need to make pepper relish still. We're gonna eat, yeah, so for those who don't know, I accidentally ordered 3 pounds of peppers. Purple peppers. They're still in the fridge in a paper bag. We do have a bunch of jalapenos though, so I was gonna make some spicy pepper relish. I should say sweet and spicy. Maybe I'll roast the peppers, that way we can do roasted pepper relish. Roast the purple peppers, not the jalapenos. I want that fresh. Yeah, I want that fresh, fresh zing. Okay, so let's review Gator City. Nestled between spiny parapet-like ridges on the back of a massive alligator, there lies a city of. There lies an eclectic city. Of strange nomadic life, in which the people live on the whims and desires of a creature that some consider to be a god. The origins of the city are up for much debate. Though the most the most common story being that there were traders who became lost at sea and found an island on which their ship crashed. They eked out a life there and were surprised to discover that one day they were nearing land. The rest is history. So, nestled between the spiny parapet-like ridges of the back of a massive alligator, there lies an eclectic city of strange nomadic life, in which the people live on the whims and desires of a creature that some consider to be a god. The origins of the city are up for much debate, though the most common story being that there were traders who became lost at sea and found an island upon which their ship crashed. They eked out a life there and were surprised to discover that one day they were nearing land. The rest is history. And today, the city and the alligator are points of much tension, admiration, fear, and curiosity. The people of the city lead their lives in the wake of the unthinkably vast and ancient creature upon which they reside. This affects everything in their lives, from where they get their resources to their preferences of food to their routines. By season, the great worm settles down in the ocean, the forest, the plains, and the mountains. Boom. None are precisely sure what drives the great creature. I'm just continue to call it a worm because it's fun. None are precisely sure what drives the great worm, as none have ever witnessed it consume anything. Though it occasionally undertakes actions outside of walking. Such as kicking at things in its way. Mostly, though, it just walks. A great lumbering pace. I like that. I like the idea that its eyes aren't open in a circuit. Some speculate that the gator is not actually awake, as its eyes are always closed. It's sleepwalking. The truth is that the gator is no alligator at all, but an entity from far away that arrived on the world at near the dawn of time, and undertook the work of shaping the stone, clay, the stone and clay of the earth. And now it rests. And now it recuperates from its great work. If it has eyeballs. Oh no. How horrifying. Okay. So, room of their lives, yeah. So we can probably nix that. The great city is spending more and more time stationary, disrupting the lives of its citizens. Okay. I think... Would you guys like to talk about naming conventions? Or would you like to keep fleshing out the city and the gator a little bit? I mean, I think we've kind of done enough. We've got a much better idea of what this is, where it came from, what it contributes to the world, what it does, the role it plays, which is all I really wanted to establish. Because it creates that sense of fascination and interest. You kind of want to know more. Gator government. The gator government. That's a good question. A very good question. Now that we understand more about the gator and how the people on its back live, I wonder if maybe that would be a better question to ask if we dove into the city itself. So, what I think I'd like to do before asking that question, I think we need to come up with a name for the city. I think we need to kind of give the city an exterior identity, what it is to the world, before we dive into it. So back, really? Sobak. That just sounds like sabak to me. Right. Come on, Google Translate. Give me some things I can mash together. The wonderful thing about fantasy names is you don't need it to be accurate. Let's try Amarik, because Amarik is fun. Well, what's the Amarik word for city? Kitema. Okay. What about spirit? Manifesti. What about alligator? I'm not sure if that's Atso or Eitso, or Eso, or Aso. Fortunately, there is no Amarik Pronunciation guide. Well, that's definitely A. Azo. Home. Let's see. Apparently home in Amharic is Biti, or Bite? Yeah, Biti. Let's try a different language. Nothing's really singing to me. Danish is too close to English. Way too close. What about a Filipino? Hey. Ah, interesting. Apparently in Filipino, buwaya is alligator, but or crocodile alligator, but it also means someone who's excessively covetous. So we probably don't want to name it after that. City is Lungsod. Bayan or Bayan, people, town, city, downtown, municipality. Lunsod, city or metropolis. What about home? Bahai. Bahai? Home, house, residence, establishment. I kind of like the word Bahai. That's an interesting one. Home on a hill. Um, okay. What about for a name for the city, Kebaya? What does that sound like to y'all? And I took Bahai and then I went over to for just a Malay translator and chose home again, and it's Kediaman or Kedayaman, I'm not sure. Nonetheless, it made me think. I really like the syllabic sound of Bahai, or like Bahaya or something like that. But Kebaya is not any actual word. I try my very best to not use real world words when I'm naming things in fantasy ways, unless it's a language I can pay respect to. I mean, I'll totally get ideas from Translate, but I'm not gonna use actual words from other languages that I can't possibly know enough to adequately respect. Um, I think Kebaya works for now. Maybe we'll change it. So, just say Kebaya, city of the old spirit. Hi, Kebaya. That's a little long. Cool. So, from the outside, obviously, we know that the city is either seen as a curiosity as a valuable resource or as something holy. I'm doing the right heading. Heading 2. So, oh, broken golem. Where'd my bullets go? There it is. Some see the city as a holy place. Some see the city as, well, let's just not do multiple bullets. Some see the city as a holy place, others as a valuable trade partner, and others still as a covetous resource. Or a valuable partner, not trade partner, and there's still a covetous resource. And I think that could very easily help to define what the many what the opinions of the world are. You know, some see it as some people see the world as holy. Some see the world as a valuable space, and others still see it as resources. So I think that a little of each is a good thing. So we would have to define relationships with other cities at some point, but we can't do that yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and say future problem, relationships with other cities. That's true, yeah. So let's add that. Some see the city as a holy place, others as a valuable partner. If you as a covetous resource, and others as a natural disaster to be stopped or avoided. Future problems, relationships with other cities. What about the people? I think that the outside world, how we see the people. I think that people in the outside world would see those people as probably resilient, adaptable, resourceful. What are some, when we think are some negative ways people would see them? Maybe inconsiderate, because they don't really empathize with people who fight nature. Because, I mean, you know, if you live on the back of something so large and so powerful that you cannot possibly fight it. How else, I wonder? How else? How do people see this city? Now, of course, there are those who see them as chosen ones. Okay. Some see them as godless. Or blaspheming, maybe. Alright. I think we've kind of got enough from the outside. What are, or excuse me, interactions with the people? Trade, mostly. And occasionally, people who have left the city. Of course there is. I mean, yeah, why not? If you're living on the back of a gator whose largest scales are the size of plots of land, then I don't see why you couldn't, make houses even from some of the scales. Hell, why can't their roof shingles be scales? They treat them to free them of any biomatter, and then just take basically the proteins and preserve them and lay them out. And they are suddenly scales. Scales, sorry. Shingles. I have a fly flying in my face. Okay. Government. I feel like that this place would probably be either some kind of oligarchy, or a representative state. That's what I feel like it would be. Is that, maybe some regions are, or maybe it's a mix. Maybe some areas, the larger areas, have democratic elections where they have their leader chosen, and then the other areas are quite small, and it's oligarchic, because it's either hereditary and someone gets groomed for the position or whatever. But I definitely don't think it would be in any way autocratic. I don't think that, or even elected sole leadership. I think it would certainly be some kind of council or some kind of group, because it seems like that life would differ so vastly from place to place on board the skater, even though it's such a short space, that it would be a kind of a big deal, I'd really like to also avoid the classist implications of there being an autocracy for certain. Especially considering it was traders who founded it initially. So maybe, there is a hard life there, I imagine. It's, it's definitely like abundant, but also unique. So maybe, I would say representative democracy of some sort. Maybe the democracy, representative republic of some sort, where different regions and different interests are represented as necessary in legislation by a chosen or inherited position. What do you guys think? I don't want to define it too detailed, but I think it does help to know that. The reason why I say maybe it's inherited in some is, well, for example, in something like, let's say, the Fisherman's Guild or whatever, which would probably be all the people who live on the tail, you'd probably have some kind of election. They're like, no, I can represent the interests better. The world is changing, old man. How many times we gotta keep teaching you this lesson, old man? There's that, but then there's also places like, I don't know, maybe a group of a couple families who let's say live out on like live out on the shoulder or something, and they get a hard existence there, and everyone is basically raised to do their job there, or they leave, So really, to have a representative, it's either got to be an elder, which is, not really chosen then, but so much as not earned. not so much as chosen, just kind of happens. Eventually, you will become the representative, and then when that person dies, the next person becomes the representative. You know, it could be any number of things. So inherited positions may be based on just age in general for some areas. But I definitely want to avoid that whole autocracy thing, and I don't want to imply that it's automatically a full democracy. Because while that's cool and all, like, you know, everyone having a say, it just feels like they don't have the resources available to them to necessarily do that. So not the libertarian desire and myth, because, well, arts are terrible in libertarianism, don't you know? I'm just I'm just being a shit. Craft-based meritocracy. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's what it sounds like. Sounds like you're kind of creating old Denmark, which I'm fine with, by the way. In called in 7th Sea, before it was sold, when John Wick was still writing it, and I know John Wick has problems, so let's just acknowledge that John Wick is problematic. That said, I really did enjoy what he did with the Vendel in 7th Sea, which is similar, where they were an economic superpower because they were very stable economically, and that's because they were run by guilds. Like, their legislation was a guild council. If you were a tradesperson, you could eventually become the leader of your guild. You know, and if you became the leader of your guild and your effective trade, then you got paid a stipend by the government for doing that service, and the government pool for that being taken from taxes from businesses, who all benefited from the guilds. So it works in fantasy worlds, obviously, because everyone's capable of being trained in a trade. That's a little more detailed than I think I want to get with that at the moment. But it's a good idea, so if that were a thing, I think it would be interesting if that was a secret. Maybe it's part of the efforts to, you know, help their city thrive. There's a secret council! But I do like the idea of a guild system. I've always liked the idea of a guild system. I think it's neat. I mean, the guild system is ultimately kind of what the Soviet Union was. So let's just add an ore here. Well, maybe not an ore. Yeah, possibly a trades crafts based electoral system in which you can only serve in government when you attain mastership in your craft trade and age out from regular, or basically, and retire. And retire. Maybe not and retire, but you can only attain it if you attain mastership in your craft or trade. I want to add a caveat there, because the problem that I have with meritocracies is they often fail to address the idea of ableism. You know? Um, so I'm thinking that attaining mastership in your craft or trade can be achieved in different ways. Mastership is not a cut and dry topic, though, and is not necessarily represented by a uniform ability to create in a specific way. It's kind of in that way more like a PhD. You just have to contribute meaningfully to your field. Hey, we just created a civilization that only allows PhD holders to take office. I like that a lot. I mean, you know, a fantasy PhD, whatever that means. Yes, I have a doctorate in mining. And I have a doctorate in waste management. All right. Maybe they're quite an egalitarian society in that way. Maybe not. But either way, I like that. Giga Gator graduate gang. Are the religious folks represented in government? I don't see why not. But, I imagine that they would still have to have a trade or craft of some sort. That they do. So what is that? You know? The thing for me about the whole religion, it is in my opinion, and I could be wrong. I could be very wrong about this. Okay, so let's acknowledge that first. It seems like to me that religion was more a flavor of things that applied to your people, your locale, and obviously there could be disagreements, and that if you were to be like, well, you know, my sole job is to be a pastor or a priest, it's like, yes, that has an honorary place depending on the culture. But then at the end of the day, your craft, your trade is in people, in guidance, in wisdom. You're ultimately a sage. You're the earliest version of an academic for all intents and purposes, or a therapist, depending. You know, and so for very early civilizations, the only people who could do that would be elders. You know, people who were older. So working out the details of the religion, I think, would be more important to determine if they serve in government. And I'm sure that if we decided, you know, when we really dove a lot deeper into the city about the cults of the alligator, cults of the dragon, of the great one, that, you know, it might turn out that there's a lot of them, and that they feel like they're not being represented on the council, so therefore they want council representation. Or there are enough people on the council who are already that thing that they don't need it, because those needs are being met, and there's nothing stopping them. That said, an industry that is seen as holy, I think that's a really great question. Is there an industry that is seen as particularly holy by those who worship the gator? That's a really good question. I think that's a more salient question. You know, something that covers a broader area, but also, you know, and is a better place to start. Well, we know that there are people who, let's say, dredge clay from where the gator settles occasionally. We also know that there are people who harvest cast-off scales and use it for building materials. So maybe quite literally laborers, are people who are seen as or that being a laborer, getting close to the gator, so to speak, working with it and the things that it does, and maybe as a builder. Clay judges, builders. I actually like the idea that that in what would be considered the lowliest labor in other cities and other governments and other organizations who are maybe more autocratic or aristocratic, they might see that as lowly, and that those who worship the gator see it as holy, which might be why this place is excessive, is kind of egalitarian, because while you have, while you might be technically like more replaceable or whatever as someone who is like that, because reasons, big quotes there, capitalism. Yes, it is a skill. No, that's a thing that I'm talking about. Is I want to avoid the implications of merit of typical classist capitalist meritocracy concepts. Yeah. Oh, there's definitely got to be couriers. Broken Golem, what do you mean by porting? I'm not familiar with the term under this context. It seems we lost most of our viewers in that time. But that's okay. In our break time. There's probably something else going on. Okay. Yeah, when you say porting, my brain is just like, that's like when you worked for Sprint, right? Where you're porting a phone number? I'm like, no, stop, please. Or like when they port something. Ah, well, welcome, Gravia the Malkov. We've been working on our lovely Gator City. Oh, you mean like a what's the word I'm looking for here? Like a dockhand type person, or like a quartermaster. Um, oh, hey there, Grashurisa. Welcome, welcome. How are you doing tonight? And I know you're my roommate, so I already know, but I'm asking for the stream, so you don't have to say, in total. Trains, train sporting, take or carry. Oh, okay, train sporting, transporting rather. Words. Take or carry. Okay, yeah. So now I'm good. I'm glad. So now I'm wondering, what do you mean? I'm gonna roll back real quick. So quartermastery, dockhands is a skill. Stevedore. Stevedore. Yeah, that's a good question, your big dad. That's what I was wondering. What exactly you meant? Because I'm just confused right now. I'm feeling fuzzy brain and lost. And I expect you to clear it up. What's another word for some dredges clay? Clay dredger. I guess it's called dredger. Builders, dredgers. You know, I wonder if fishing would be one. Ah, that's fair. Yeah, a tradition. So the traditional master route, of course, comes from the concept of artisans. That was what kind of codified to modern standards in what the Renaissance mostly. Which I think is not great because a lot of that was based on its value to certain specific imperialistic enterprises. Meanwhile, I think you can take that system, that ranking system of novice or apprentice, novice, journeyman, expert, and master. I think you can take that pretty easily and apply it to anything. If you're an apprentice, if you're an apprentice quartermaster or dock worker of some sort, then you're ultimately learning. Then that ultimately means that the expectations of that of that job are much higher than they would be in another place. So they must be very efficient. Because if the majority of your crew are journeymen, or experts, and very few people attain mastership, then that's implying that someone who does that job, who's a master, could probably do that job in their sleep. Which I think is really cool. The idea that you could take a look at an entire stack of cargo, build a block in your head made of it, and play Tetris in like no time flat. Mastery is the ability to take the base skills and perform them much better. So what that ultimately means is that someone who's a master would probably do planning. They would probably be like, here's our work plan for the day, here you go. They would probably do things, and then, of course, help with the things whenever there's people not around. Because he did say meritocratic, so there is that. Cool. I like this a lot. Those are an industry that seems particularly holy to those who worship the Gator. Dredgers, builders, fishers. Any job that interact. Ooh. What about what about maintenance? Maintenance. There you go. People who go around and like walk the length of the Gator. God, I imagine there's a lot of followers who do that. They walk the length of the city, making sure everything's okay. Surveyors. I mean, I'm borrowing here a little bit from the practices of the Cornerdom in Cologne, Germany, the Cathedral of Cologne, where the monks will walk the entire circuits of the cathedral, which is gargantuan, by the way. I mean, it's not as gargantuan as Notre Dame, but it's it's the only one I've been to, so it's the only one I have to reference. But I was thinking it'd be really interesting if that's kind of what these people do. So surveyors and maintenance folk who walk the length of this, and of course builders and dredgers who need to go grab resources. If they're treading the length of this Gator, it's probably considered a very holy exercise because you're kind of like meditating on this while you're walking. It gives you time to think. And now I'm just imagining that there's a zipline system, and I don't know why. I've been playing too much Deep Rock Galactic. Zipline! Cool. So, for those who arrived, let's do a brief recap, because we got 5 minutes left. Today, we decided to work on the city of the Old Spirit that strides across the land on the back of a gargantuan alligator. Kebaya is what we named it for now. We'll see if the name sticks. But, nestled between the spiny parapet-like ridges of the back of a massive alligator, there lies an eclectic city of strange nomadic life, Gehenna, in which the people live on the whims and desires of a creature that some consider to be a god. The origins of the city are up for much debate, though the most common story being that there were traders who became lost at sea and found an island upon which their ship crashed. They eked out a life there, and were surprised to discover that one day they were nearing land. The rest is history, and today the city and the alligator are points of much attention, admiration, fear, and curiosity. The people of the city lead their lives in the wake of this unthinkably vast and ancient creature upon which they reside. This affects everything in their lives, from where they get their resources, to their preferences of food, to their routines. By season, the great worm settles down in the ocean, the forest, the plains, and the mountains. None are precisely sure what drives the great worm, as none have ever witnessed it consume anything, though it occasionally undertakes actions such as outside of walking, such as kicking things that are in its way. Mostly, though, it just walks at a great, lumbering pace in an endless circuit. Some speculate that the gator is not actually awake, as its eyes are always closed. The truth is that this gator is no alligator at all, but an entity from far away that arrived in the world near the dawn of time and undertook the work of shaping the stone and clay of the earth, and now it recuperates from its great work by visiting energetic points and confluences around the region. So, we accomplished quite a bit more than that today, but that's the most salient aspects of it. The people who live on the back of this gator in Gehenna, city of the old spirit, live a hard life, but also just an alien one, a strange one. Odd building materials, interesting lifestyle choices. When you're living on the back of a god, well, I suppose everything's a little different. So this tonight has been Worlds and Crafts, where we open the curtain of creation on setting building, where we talk about metaplots, minutiae, and mechanics. And while we have zoomed in just a little bit more, there are endless possibilities on an even closer lens. But I think next week we're going to zoom back out and maybe focus on another area to bring a little bit more to life. And as we breathe life into the setting, and as we bring it a little closer to ourselves, maybe we'll start to find that the stories that can possibly crop up come directly to us, and with hardly any effort at all. Remember, folks, creating is better with friends. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been a lot of fun. It's been very relaxing. I had a glass of wine, had some water. I hope everyone enjoyed it. And make sure to give us a follow on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook. And also make sure to join our Discord. If you liked what you saw here, you're definitely going to like more of our streams, because, man, do we have a lot of content out there. I'm not sure if we still do, but I know for a while we had streams every night of the week. So check us out. Go look at our actual plays. Go look at our panels. Go look at the work that we're doing, and also be sure to check out our podcast. I don't know if we have one of those. Broken Golem, do we have a thing for our podcast? I don't actually know. Let me try podcast. Cross your fingers. It worked. We have a podcast, so check that out. And thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for joining. Tell your friends, and yeah, y'all have a great night. Ciao.